Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome to Shop Culture. I am the owner here at Boxerworks. We are in beautiful outskirts Watkinsville, Georgia. Very, very wet Watkinsville, Georgia today.
Yes, I don't have to water the garden tonight, which is perfect.
Not.
Yeah, I ordered some rain because I didn't want to water the garden.
It's coming down out there.
Yeah.
And this here is Nathan. I'm sure you all know Nathan. He is a longtime staple in the Airheads community, former owner of...
A staple. I used to be like a bobby pit or something like that.
And then you
I
got
evolved into a staple from a paperclip. I was a paperclip for a while. Now I'm a staple.
Staples are much better than paper clips.
Well, paper clips are easy to you take on and off, and they don't tear the paper, but they don't work as well.
Well, I'm sure what you all want to talk about is Nathan got a new hat. He had that other hat. How long did you have that other hat?
A while. I didn't put the date on it when I got it.
Yeah, but it was...
I still have it. I mean, some of them are hanging here in the back of my toolbox. There's one right here.
Oh, that's the one, isn't it?
I'm not sure this is the one.
This is the one. Yeah.
This may be the one. Now, this is an Airhead hat. This is my Folly Beach hat. I had been wearing a Folly Beach hat. The hat before my last Folly Beach hat. And
here, let me see it.
And then
this.
And then this is the one before that, which is also a Folly Beach hat. So because I spend so much time with these, I really have a hard time parting with them.
This still damp.
So
these are both still damp.
So they've been hanging over here. You know, it's the air conditioning. So
So
it's like an old friend. Once you have it, you really don't. You know, you had a lot of. If they could talk, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
That one looks like it was found at the bottom of Folly Beach. Really is.
Well, Folly Beach is a beach, so the sand breaks. Sand beats on it.
Yeah.
And if you've never been to Folly, you should go. It's a one road in, one road out town outside of Charleston, and
I don't think I have.
It's got more bars per square inch probably than Athens does. They're called social clubs. You pay $1 and you can drink 7 days a week. But South Carolina's got that little bottle law, so everything you get comes in a little bottle.
But you don't drink.
I don't drink. No.
Did you ever drink?
No.
So what did you do?
Well, I didn't. When I was growing up, all my friends were drinkers, and they owned Corvettes and Porsches and all this. And so they always needed somebody who could drive because they were always inebriated.
Right.
And so I was cheap date. They would buy me a quart of milk and a box of cookies and Oreos or chocolate chip cookies. And they give me the keys.
Chocolate all the way back then.
Yeah, they give me the keys. And so I was driving, 911, 912s and Corvette and all this kind of stuff. So it was great. They'd go somewhere and we'd be in the movies and they go, hey, let's go skiing. And I go, I don't have any money. You drive because I lost my license because I got busted, and you drive. I'll pay for it. So, and you'd watch them go out drinking, and then go, sneak around and get somebody to buy them some liquor, and then they'd drink it, and they'd do stupid shit and fall over, and then the next day they'd be throwing up, and I just never really caught on. I just didn't see the good part of it,
Right. My dad said the exact same thing.
Yes.
He was in the Army, and he was like, the guys would always go out. He was in Korea, and the guys would always go out and get home and be drunk and throw up everywhere. And next day they'd be like, oh, I had such a great time. And he was like, I just don't understand how you had a good time.
The other reason that I didn't drink, I think, is because my grandparents lived in Brooklyn, and we spent a lot of time once a month. We'd go to the whole family. There were 4 brothers, and their families would show up, and they would all sit in the kitchen. My grandmother would be sitting there knitting and whatever and talking to my mother. They spoke different languages. And all 4 brothers would be playing pinochle, smoking cigarettes, and they'd have the baseball game. That's when the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Yankees were all in New York City. It was a baseball town.
Right.
And so my grandfather worked at the hospital next door, and he made his own schnapps. And so they'd all come to the house, and they'd
now
play.
It's coming together.
They'd play pinochle. They'd deal the cards out, and then somebody would throw the trump card out, and then they go, what you lead with that for? I got a handful of aces. They throw the cards in, take a shot or whatever, smoke a cigarette, and deal the cards out again. And so I would always sit there and watch him. And my Uncle Curly, who was his character to begin with, I always, for some reason, sat next to Uncle Curly. And so at one point, I said, Uncle Curly, I want to smoke a cigarette. He goes, okay, Natey, jump right up here. So I got on his leg, and he said, here's the deal. He said, lit up a cigarette. He said,
how old were you? I don't know.
I was probably 6 or 7.
Okay.
He said, you got to smoke this as fast as you can. So he gave it to me, and of course I started, and he just picked me up and walked through the kitchen into the bathroom and held me over the bathtub where I threw up.
Right.
So I never smoked. So then, a couple weeks later, they're drinking schnapps and make Boilermakers drink beer and schnapps. And And I said, Uncle Curly, I want a drink. Natey, jump right up here.
You
So
didn't
I got
learn
up.
the first time. I want to know if you learned. You didn't
I
learn
got
the
up
first
on
time.
here, and then he said, "Okay, here's the thing." He filled a shot glass. He goes, "You got to drink it all at once," because I was watching him throw it back. So I said, "So," and I threw it back. He picked me up, carried me into the bathroom. I threw up in the bathtub. So I never smoked and I never drank. It was a perfect. It was the perfect perfect way to treat your explain to somebody what not to do or the quick consequences of what not to do.
Well, that goes one or two ways from what I hear. Either you stay away from it your whole life, or you get attracted to it more later on if you get it early.
Well, but that's
it
how
worked okay with
that's
you.
how it worked for me.
Right.
So we want to talk a little bit about the history of dual plugging as far as BMWs go.
What is dual plugging exactly?
Well,
if somebody doesn't know out
if
there.
you give me a second, you'll get the answer to that question. So in the late '70s, a guy named Tom Cutter wrote a little manual about adding a second spark plug to a motorcycle.
Spark plug, so
yes.
dual plugging.
Yeah, so originally you had one spark plug,
Right.
and then you did a little bit of milling work here, and you added another hole in a second spark plug. As you look inside it, you can see there's holes for two. So
Tom Cutter wrote this.
Tom Cutter wrote a book about how to set up once you did this, about what to do with your ignition and the pluses and minuses or the pluses of dual plugging.
Right.
And so I think dual plugging, we used dual plugging in the 70s and the 80s and in the 90s, mostly to start with on race bikes.
I see.
And the reason is that the reason dual plugging came into be is that with one spark plug, when it fires, then the flame has to go all the way through this head, what they call the flame front, in a certain amount of time, milliseconds. It has to burn completely, and then the exhaust valve opens and goes at the back. Well, this really wasn't enough time to do it because the flame front was so big.
So it was still burning by the time the exhaust opened.
Right. Well, you're going to have overlap anyway, but by adding a second spark plug, you made the flame front that much smaller, and you had a lot more burn in the same amount of time.
Right.
And so you had less unused, unburned gases.
Right, coming out.
Right, and so it made this more efficient.
Right.
And then in working with that, it also allowed you to retard the timing.
I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore.
Okay, well, it allowed you to retard the timing.
Okay, all right.
Slow it down to give it a little more time to do what it needed to do, because it was so much more efficient.
Now, did these fire both at the exact same
time?
time?
Same time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a lost spark motor, so both sides fire at the same time. But one set, the valves are open and there's no compression. The other side, the valves are closed, pushes the piston down. So we used it on race bikes because obviously with a higher octane fuel and with a more efficient cylinder head, we got more power. And racing, you want as much power as you can to get going as fast as you can. And so, and then of course it was the cool factor. You had a wire that came to the top, and then you saw another one come at the bottom.
So wires are cool. More wires.
Well, it
cool.
just was something out of the ordinary. It made you like you knew what you were doing. So, and that lasted for a while, and then it kind of sort of fell out of favor.
Why?
But why? Because I don't think anybody really cared about it. I mean, the fact is that, and we'll get to this in a second, that one of the reasons it started coming back in again was the fact that if you have ethanol in your fuel, if it's 10% ethanol, ethanol is not really as combustible as gasoline. So in 100 parts of gasoline, with 10 parts of ethanol, you're only getting in 90% of a combustible material. So the more efficient this is, again, the more you're going to make better use of what you have there. And then if you carry that through, we started doing this on all the World Traveler bikes that we did.
I see.
And the reason was because once you get out of this country, even if you run an E85 in Southern California, or you're running Pemex in Mexico, as the octane goes down and as the efficiency of the gas goes down, the more efficient the cylinder is, the better the motor runs. And so by having the dual plug set up, it allowed you to use shitty gas and still have the bike run relatively well.
Got it.
And so we started doing that in all the dual purpose bikes that we were building for people who would be out of the country.
And other than being able to use crappier gas, what other performance or improvements would they see if they wanted to get their
Well,
head still
if
plugged?
the cylinder is more efficient, then theoretically you can go down in jet sizes.
Okay.
You can use smaller jets and get the same
In your
results
carburetors.
in your carburetor. And
Right.
so between this being more efficient and going down in the cylinder and the jet sizes, you should be able to get a little better mileage
Okay.
out of the motorcycle.
So why'd you do it in race bikes? Like,
Well, a
is
race
it
bike
not
you
an
use
increase
it.
in speed, or
No, a race bike to begin with you're using a gas that's much more volatile than
Okay.
street gas. But anytime you improve the efficiency of the cylinder, the head, it doesn't matter what you're using, you're going to get a better result. So,
go fast?
well, the internal combustion engine basically, you get the charge. The faster you can get the charge in, burnt and out, the faster you can get the charge in, burnt and out, the better you get. Quicker RPM, quicker throttle response,
Right.
and a more efficient cylinder.
Right.
So all those things kind of tie together. And the dual plugging did all that. This is an early dual plug. You'll notice that the hole in this size is the same hole here. These are 14 millimeter sparking plugs. We don't use 14s. We use smaller spark plugs. We use less of a strain on the structure down here. And the top one is a 3/4 inch, and usually the bottom one is a 1/2 inch. It sticks out the same in the cylinder.
Right.
But we use it, again, we're trying not to compromise the structure of the head in any way. It may or it may not, but that's just the way we've always done it. We use a smaller spark plug. Of course, you have to then pay attention because they're two different sizes. When we used to do them both the same size, we still used a 1/2 inch at the bottom and a 3/4 at the top. So if you screwed around and made them the wrong size, you could have a problem. Piston hitting a spark plug. So by putting two different size spark plugs in also made it more foolproof.
Right. And is this something that's common with bikes that are not horizontally opposed dual piston bikes?
Oh yeah, I mean, all the motors you buy now, all your cars have 4 spark plugs. They have more spark plugs per cylinder. I mean, they've done that for years.
Just in bikes, though. Like back
Well,
in the 70s, was that a
bikes,
common
sure,
thing?
in bikes they have them. On the newer bikes they have them.
Right.
This started, like I said, back in the 70s when this was not common, and Tom Cutter coming up with this whole idea kind of was like a bit of a revolution, and it made sense, and a lot of people started doing it again. We started doing it on race bikes,
Right.
and then started doing it on street bikes just because we could.
Right. Right.
So, the other option, the other thing here is that your ignition system on here, if it's points, can't fire 4 spark plugs for very long. So
Right.
you had to put either an ignition booster on it, a company called Excel made that, or you had to put electronic ignition, a Dyna system or something like that on it.
And that
Now,
would be bikes earlier than 81?
80 is the interim year. 80 was points to the can, but some of the 80 bikes also had electronic ignition. So once you got to electronic ignition from the factory, it would run 4 spark plugs.
Got
So
it.
that wasn't a problem. So you basically just added another coil, built 2 spark plug wires, added another coil, and so you had 4 wires. And the other thing is, when you wired these, you wired one coil to one head and the other coil to the other head, and the same thing with the other side. And what that allowed you to do is, if one coil were a little stronger than the other when you're starting a motor, it just helped even the starting out. It gave you better spark dispersion on both sides.
Right.
And so that we always wire them. We alternate, one on each side. Also, people say, well, I guess you can do that so if it starts to run, one spark plug goes bad. That really doesn't work real well. This thing's set up for 4 spark plugs.
Right.
If one spark plug goes bad, it's going to be a noticeable difference. Just like if you only had one on each side and one side cut out. It'll still run, but it won't work very well because the throttles, the timing's been retarded and things have been changed inside
I really
there.
don't think you can say that anymore.
Yeah, well, it's too late for that. We've already said it. So,
So you were a driver for a long time. Did you ever drive away from a crime?
drive away from a crime?
Like fast, though.
Anytime I saw a crime, I would drive away from it. Why would you want to stay? The police are showing up.
Okay, so you were never a driver. A driver.
Oh, you mean
Right.
You mean the getaway car?
Yeah. See, I'm thinking this might be yes.
Not for anything major. Okay, so one of my best friends, Arnie, had this girlfriend, and of course the parents didn't like any of us because we were all long-haired hippie guys. But and so one night she called the house and said, "Hey, my parents are out." And so Arnie said, "All right, well, I'll come on over." And I had my dad's car. He didn't have a car, and so I drove him over. And he went upstairs and whatever, and I parked across the street. Well, the parents came home early.
Okay.
And so, they went in the house, and I'm sure my Arnie and this girl heard them. And so the next thing I know, the second story window opens up. Mm-hmm. Arnie's shirt and pants come out. And then he climbs out of the window. It's grass there, and he jumps out. We're like 17 or 18. He jumps out, and he starts running across the lawn yelling at me. I already was seeing what was going on because I saw them come in, and I couldn't do much. I mean, I started honking the horn, but I didn't want to attract a lot of attention. And so I leaned over and got the passenger side door open, and he started running, and I started moving, and he dove headfirst in with his pants, and we drove down the street with the door. His feet stuck between the door and the door jamb. We got out of there before the parents could do a whole lot. Needless to say, that was the last time you ever saw her. But,
right.
So that was sort of a getaway.
That was definitely a getaway.
Yeah, that was a getaway. Definitely. But it wasn't really a crime.
Right.
It was more or less of just bad discretion.
Right.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
And you had to get away quick. Yeah. So I grew up. Well, I didn't grow up, but I lived in.
You never grew up?
No, I did not. I did not ever grow up.
Okay.
Thankfully, you didn't either. So can't be talking. So I lived in Pueblo, Colorado for a long time, and I had a couple of friends, and we drove around. She had a Volvo. I had a few.
Yeah.
But one of my friends who I actually became my roommate at one point, and my best friend, who's still my best friend, we were in her Volvo. And these guys pulled up right next to us. One of them was a neo-Nazi. And we pulled into a parking lot, and they started, because Charlene was Hispanic, and they started just really, really laying into her, and she had a mouth. And so she did not take that, and she went back at them, and they were like, "We're going to get you." They went to school with my best friend, and he was sitting there, and they were yelling at him, and we both started cursing at him, like flipping him off. And he just freaked out and held the lockdown so they couldn't get in, even though they weren't even getting out of the cars. And so we took off, and they started chasing us. So we were in a car chase at that point. And we drove all over Pueblo, all out in the country, and they chased us. We were going fast. And at one point, I was like, "Hey, Charlene, I want to drive." She was like, "Cool, trade places with me." So we're in a car chase, and she gets a leg out, puts it over. I get a leg out, put it over, go back. And then I'm driving. Didn't lose any speed at all. They couldn't catch us. We spun around, went through some neighborhoods, pulled into a driveway, stopped. They blew past us, pulled back out, started running away, and Charlene was like, "I want to drive again." Cool. So we went ahead and switched back and forth. We eventually lost them. They couldn't find us. We got away.
We used to have one guy drive, and the other guy who was in the front worked the gas pedal. So one guy would be driving, and the other guy would work the gas pedal.
Is that 'cause
we had a lot of. We used
short?
to do that going down to the beach, going down to the shore
short?
on the high. No, but we didn't have cruise control, so this was kind of cruise control. One guy could drive, and the other guy would just sit over there with this. But talking about Volvos,
yeah.
My dad bought a new Volvo in 1968, a 144, a red car, and he had it 2 or 3 weeks, and he finally let me use it, and I went I grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I went down to Cedar Lane, which is where kind of the main part of town was.
Right.
My girlfriend at the time, Rosemary, worked at a bakery. And on Saturdays, they would give them some stuff to take home if there was stuff left over. And she brought it in the car. And I picked her up, and we were driving back to the house, and we got to the house. And I'm not sure what possessed me to do this, but at some point, I said something to her to look around, and she looked around, and then as she turned around, I hit her in the face with the strawberry shortcake.
Oh.
Well, needless to say, we spent a bunch of time cleaning the car up.
Yep.
And so about 2 weeks later, I picked her up again, and this time we went into the house, and my mother was in the kitchen. And my mother said, and I sat down at the table, and my mother said, "Oh, look." And I turned around, and man, she nailed me with this strawberry shortcake right there in the kitchen.
Involved.
Yeah, right there in the kitchen. Yeah, my mom was quite the card.
Nice.
Yeah. So, mother stories. I hadn't seen my mother in 5 years, and my parents, taught us to be pretty independent as soon as we got out of the house, which was as soon as we could get out of the house. So I hadn't seen her in 5 years. I left when I was 18, and it was probably I was 23 or 24. And I came in the house, had my helmet on. She was sitting in the kitchen table was down at the end of the long hallway in the apartment. Mm-hmm. Kitchen was real long, and she sat there, and I walked in. I took my helmet off, and my mother said to me, "Nathan, you look the same. You just have more face to wash." Because I lost all my hair. I said, "Appreciate that. And you wonder why I only show up once every 5 years so I can get this shit from you." Yeah, just have more face to wash.
Yeah.
But she also, my mother was a big classical music person. Mm-hmm. And so I'd come home from grade school, come home for lunch, and she'd have this station WQXR on in New York, and she'd say, "Hey, who wrote that piece?" And I go, "I don't know." She'd go, "Come on, you got to make an effort." I got fairly good at it, but I'd come home, I'd be hungry, and she'd say, "Who wrote that piece?" And I'd say, "I'm on." She goes, "You got to try." I just don't feel like it. So she would go to the refrigerator, open the refrigerator, take out a grilled cheese sandwich wrapped in tinfoil, hand me the iron, and say, "Here, make your lunch." So I'd have to make my own grilled cheese sandwich with an iron if I didn't. So I go, "Oh yeah, that's Shostakovich. That's that's his piano concerto in E flat minor, and that's New York Philharmonic with Leonard Bernstein at Tanglewood." And my mother go, "Hey, you got part of it right, but that was pretty good." So I got to be. So now people say to me, "Yeah, you're the only guy I know whistles to classical music." I know a lot of classical music. Right. I like some of it, but
your mom really pushed you to be cultured, right?
That was
like she pushed you into culture.
She drugged me to operas, and come on, Mom, I just want to play baseball. She drugged me to operas, and
Did you ever start enjoying it?
Oh no,
still not, huh?
The only thing I enjoy is belittling it,
But you know a lot about it.
I do know a lot about it, about classical music and the history of different composers and so on and so forth. My mother was a big Leonard Bernstein fan. She followed him his whole life. So,
right.
Yeah. So, we can spend a lot of time talking about mother stories, but I think we'll let it go.
That should probably be another episode.
Right.
Just entirety.
Right.
So look out for the mother
dual plugging and mothers. They don't really go together.
They don't go together.
Right.
So if you guys got all that, I hope you got all that, and it was useful for you.
There's a test tomorrow.
Yeah, test tomorrow on all of that.
Well, you're cramming tonight.
We're gonna cut here, and Garrett's gonna help me set up dual plugging on my motorcycle, and we'll go over that real quick. It might be a fast video, but it'll be fun to watch. So we're gonna take care of that. Send us your head, or you bring your bike in. We have our neighbor, Lynn, who can make your heads dual plugged. He goes through the process of machining and milling, and he also refinishes heads and does an incredible job, right?
Well, all he does is aluminum heads.
Right.
He does mostly high performance stuff.
Right.
But he's also had CNC'd these for us before. He's got a flow bench, so you can send the stuff to us, and we can pretty much do whatever you want to do with the head. He also he's a great TIG welder, so if you got cracks somewhere, he does that a lot on old Porsche stuff.
Yep.
He welds them back up.
Does a complete valve job.
Well, yeah,
refinishes all the surfaces.
Right, he's got a surface grinder and
right.
all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we have the ability. He does. We can do it, but that's all he does. So he's much better at it than
right.
we are.
Right.
Our only downside is we have to get him 3 or 4 sets. So once he gets set up, right. the setup is half the time to do it. He also does. We put a lot of. We fix the center stud on the valve cover. It strips out a lot. He fixes it. We fix it. That's pretty simple. 8 by 1 1/4. That's a pretty simple fix. If your threads are bad, we send them to a friend of ours in Pennsylvania who fixes those. If they're not terribly bad, we have a big die here. We can clean them up and usually make them work. We have a vapor blaster, so we can make these things look new.
Yep.
So what we can send you something that looks like it just came off the factory floor, but it's, you know, if you want to do a plug-in, it's a little better. If you want just to leave the single plug, we can do that too. But we can make it more efficient depending on what you want to do. And also based on that, if you're interested in getting your motor to run at the right temperature, we can talk about how to set your bike up, what's involved in getting each cylinder to run at the right temperature and each cylinder to be within 5% of each other temperature-wise, and it makes the bike run better. You get better gas mileage, and there's a lot to the temperature. Nobody ever talks about it, but there's a lot to getting the bike to run at the right temperature for these bikes. I mean, you see people with dipsticks that have temperature gauges on them, and you ask them, well, what's that for? I don't know. It's cool. Well, do you know what your bike is supposed to run on? And they go, no. It's okay. It's just a cool factor. So, so that goes along with this, because in making it more efficient. And then if you want to make the motor, I mean, you could take a motor that's got 100 pounds compression on one side and 60 on the other, and you can still dial it in a lot closer to where they're running at the same temperature, and you can make it run more efficient, even though one side obviously doesn't have as good a seal as the other side. So there's a lot you can do to help out an old motor. There's a lot you can do to help out a new motor based on temperature.
Right. And I ran one of my engines at exactly the right temperature.
Yeah, until he melted it.
To blow it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Did a very good job. The best one we've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty impressive. Our friend, he worked on air-cooled Porsches for a long time, right? And he liked my explosion job on my engine.
Well, I think everybody who likes to see a complete disaster. I mean, we took pry bars and people got our legs on it. We're prying on it, trying to get the rods out, and things were broken, and it was pretty interesting. It's around here somewhere.
Yeah, I think I took it mostly apart and put it in scrap.
You couldn't get most of it apart.
It was
twisted up, and the rods were twisted up, and
it was pretty.
It was interesting, but
so Lynn he raced air-cooled Porsches, right?
Yes, for many. Well, he started on go-karts. His dad was did Volkswagens. His dad was the Roundy Round champ in Columbia, South Carolina for 13 years in a row. And Len will tell you that he won on a
go-kart?
No, on a Volkswagen. And he won just about every race, and they always tore his motor down, and they never could find anything wrong with it. So Len started on go-karts and went from there to the little Formula Vs, and then from there to running Porsches. And he did that for a long time. And then I built this building for him in 2012 when he pretty much quit at that point because he had so much to do and he wanted to get his building paid off and so on and so forth. But he still does a lot of race stuff. He still does a lot of high-end work for shops, and he does a lot of reconditioning and fixing old heads and changing valve angles and so on and so forth.
There's really only 2 places in the country that will work on the Porsche valves like he does, and I think most of the guys that did Airheads back in the day have shut down their operations, right?
Right.
Like you can't really find anyone to do this work anymore.
Obviously, Len doesn't do just these for a living, but he does enough of stuff that's similar to this that this was easy for him to transfer. And he's been doing this for me for probably close to 30 years.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of experience, and he's kind of the mad doctor, and he's pretty good at what he does. So if you want a more efficient cylinder head, we're happy to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. And speaking of plugging, I think...
You're going to plug the shop now?
No, I think we just did that.
Oh, okay.
We definitely just plugged the shop.
Okay.
And his shop, too.
Right.
I guess the theme of this episode should be plugging, because we're plugging everything. All right, so one more time. Why is this good?
Well, let's see what you learned. You tell me what I just said.
Crap. All right.
Okay, so basically...
No. I got it. Okay, so the reason why you dual plug is so you get a more even explosion inside of the valve chamber.
You get a more efficient
explosion. But it's efficient because it's more evenly
dispersed,
right?
The flame is it's a symmetrical spot.
Right.
Making it work, yeah.
Right, so that makes it more efficient. In order to get the plugs in, we put usually one larger one and one smaller one so that it helps keep the integrity of the head. Whenever you're setting it up, you need a second
coil.
Right. I was just trying to remember what it was called. you need a second coil to fire on the other spark plugs. You also need
unless you're running a 1981 or later bike, you can use just. I mean, you need another coil, but you don't.
You don't need
another ignition system.
Right.
Yeah.
So you either need well, you need electronic ignition to be able to do it, right? You can't do it with points.
Well, you can if you use an accelerator or a set, but nobody makes those anymore.
Right. Right.
So you basically need electronic ignition. Anyone will work.
And the last thing you have to do is you have to slow down your timing.
Retard the timing about 6 degrees.
Anymore.
Because it reminds him of what his mother used to call him all the time when he did stupid shit at home.
This is not untrue. Okay, so yeah. Anything else that I missed? We can do it.
Nah, probably, but that's good enough. That's probably as much as anyone who watched this is going to remember.
Right. Other than send us your heads if you want us to
They
do
can
it
watch it again. Yeah, send us your heads if you want us to help you out with it.
Thank you. All right, I think we're done. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. Check out our Instagram. Look at the show notes. Well, I might put that book. Maybe that book is still available that you talked about.
It's just a little pamphlet, but yeah, it is. You could probably find it. Garrett said he found one upstairs here, actually.
Right.
So I think if you Google Tom Cutter, you probably can find it.
All right. And he's taken his microphone off, so we're really done. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate it.